Okay, so the first task that we're going to be doing is cylinders. It is the first task in the book. So what we're going to do is we're just going to work our way step by step. You do not need to have this book printed out. You can have it on a screen in front of you. It is up on the Teams. But I'm going to have it here just to show you as I'm working. On the same bit of paper that we did our practice lines and circles on the other half we're just going to be practicing sketching our cylinders. So remember all the steps we just did in the first place. First step is to draw 2 points. Those 2 points will create the top of our cylinder. So you want to put 1 dot there, 1 dot there. I am going to be drawing this bigger so that you can see it. I would recommend drawing it around this size though. So first thing you want to do is you want to join the dots. What you don't want to do is you do not want to join the dots too curvy. Now what I mean by that is, if you do it with a big curve, it throws the whole perspective off. What you want to do is, instead of drawing a curve, act like it's a straight line that you sort of push a wee bit in the middle. So if I do that again, put my 2 dots, you want to make sure my page. Now I'm going to turn it this way, because I think that they would be more comfortable for me to draw that going that way instead of downwards. So as you can see, there is a big difference between those two. This one is more open and this one is more squished. You want to make sure it is more squished. So that one is not what we're going to do. From there, you are going to draw 2 straight lines down. Now the good thing is, we have practiced all these straight lines before. So remember before, pencil far back, make sure you're moving your whole arm. If you don't feel confident enough to begin with, make sure your muscle memory is working and you run your hand up and down, and then 1 and at the next point 2. I did not start directly on the dots that I had made for the top of our cylinder. I had started a little bit above that. The reason for that is, if you're drawn light enough, you can rub all this out. Doesn't really matter. We've done the first step. We've got our 2 dots, done that. We've got our cylinder, done that. Our 2 lines down, done that. Now what you want to do is you want to create a curve at the bottom, which will give us this sort of cup cylinder look. So what you want to do is, at a certain point down the line, you want to make a dot. That they will dictate the height of our cylinder. So what we're going to do is, we are going to create a curve at the bottom. Now this curve is going to be more dramatic than the one at the top due to the perspective that this is sitting at. So what you want to do is, you want to create more of a curve like this. So I'm going to go to more of a curve. The bottom one, I would recommend just eyeballing it. But as you can see, that there is much more dramatic than the one at the top. Once you've done that, darken it in. I would recommend practicing this cylinder a couple of times before moving on to the second line and adding cylinders behind it. You want to be able to get 1 done before you go on and add 2 and 3 more. Okay, so once you've practiced it a couple of times and you feel like, right, I think I can do these cylinders, what we're going to do then is we're going to work our way along line 2. which is putting cylinders behind the one that we've already got. So I haven't left myself that much space, so I'm going to quickly do another one. So now that I've got that one sitting, we're going to start to do line 2. Now, first thing on line 2 is, again, same as the top one, is we're going to do 2 dots, which gives the top of our second cylinder. Position is the most important thing of these dots. What you want to do is you want to roughly find the middle of the cylinder you've created, go up a little bit, and then go to the left a little bit and create a dot. And then you want to make sure that it's roughly the same size as this cylinder, if not smaller, because remember it's going to be sitting behind it, so perspective would happen that it'd be a wee bit smaller. And do your second dot. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing as before. You're going to join these up with our curved line. Remember, it is only a little curve, it's not a big curve. One at the top and one at the bottom. What you're going to do now is you're going to drag your points down. I know that on here it stops at the top of the cylinder, but the issue with that is you never know where to stop your curve when it gets to putting in the bottom of our cylinder. Now, because we've darkened this top one in, there should be a clear difference between construction lines, which is your light lines, and your outlines, which is the ones that we darken in. So what you're going to do is same as before, you're going to draw a line straight down and you're going to go right through the first cylinder, because you can rub it out if you want to. Now, if you look here, it says on it, guide dot. I recommend doing this guide dot because that it'll give you your height, because you don't want the cylinders to stop in the same place, because then the back one's going to look really, really tall and then the front one's going to look really short. You want them to look roughly the same height. So all you're going to do is you're going to look at that distance there, right, say, okay, I've came up that distance, I'm going to come up that distance again. That's where I want this to stop. What we're going to do then is, remember it's got to curve. So then the points here are going to come up a wee bit more and we're going to join them up. Now what you want to do is you want to darken it in, but not the part that goes over or behind the first cylinder that we've done. So if I cover that up so I pretend I can't see it, I'll darken this in. Now what I will do is I'll then take a rubber, or you can leave it as it is so long as it's light enough, and I'll just rub out those little lines like that. So that now it looks like we've got another cylinder sitting behind the one that we've got. The third line is exactly the same as this one, except from you're going to do it on the other side. So same thing again, find the middle. You want to make sure you're coming up the same height, but instead of going a little bit to the left, you're going to go a little bit to the right. And plot your points. Now, I am going to speed through my third one, because it's exactly the same as the first two. Okay, now we've got all three. What we want to do is we want to put in our what we call horizon line. What a horizon line represents is where the ground and the sky meet. So that's this line here. What you're going to do is you're going to go a little bit above your cylinders and just draw a straight line. You'll see here it tells you to put the sunlight in the right hand corner. So I'm just going to take a little yellow pencil. I'm going to draw a little sun. What we're going to do now is we are going to start to add some shadows to our cylinders and make it look a little bit more realistic. Now what I'm going to do is, just to help me out, is I'm going to take a piece of A4 paper so that I'm left with a straight edge. This here is called the shield. A bit like Captain America or the Vikings or something like that. It's a shield. So what it does is it protects something. What we're going to do is we are going to protect surfaces that we don't really want to shade. So if we look here, if the sun's coming in from the right hand side is going to be lighter and the left hand side is going to be darker. Okay, so even if you look here, I've got a light sitting here, which is to the right. This side of my hand is lighter, and that side of my hand is darker. Easiest one to start with is the middle one because it's not got any bits chopped off of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my shield to cover up my cylinder on the left hand side. So I'm going to cover it and set it like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil, make sure it's far back in my hand, and I'm just going to lightly add a shadow to the left hand side of my cylinder. Now, depending on your teacher, depends on how they render or add shadows and stuff. Some people don't like to smudge. I am a fan of smudging. The best thing to do is take your ring finger, because it's actually your softest finger. It puts less pressure on the page, and I am just going to smudge the edge of my pencil that I've put down to create my shadow, and it's just going to make it a little bit less harsh. Now, in real life, the further to the left that we get, the darker the shadow is going to be. So I'm just going to come back, but I'm not going to take my pencil as far across as I did in the first place. I am putting a little bit of a curve in this. I'm not going straight across. I'm sort of doing the window wiper motion that we didn't want to start with to create my shadow. I'm smudging it a bit. I'm going even further across now. Getting this bit darker. Smudging it. And what should happen is, I've not moved my shield this entire time. So here, you can see that there's pencil marks coming off, but when I move that, there's nothing there. If you made a little bit of a mess down the bottom, you can just take a rubber and rub it out, tidy it up a little bit. That there is your first cylinder, nice and rendered. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same for the back one. I'm going to go to the left first. I'm going to cover this just because I don't want to waste my time rubbing everything out. I'm just going to put my shield on there again, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did on my first one. Lightly. Go like this. Take my ring finger and smudge it out. Come a little bit further in. Smudge it out again. Now I have missed a wee bit in the bottom here, which is not ideal, but we're only human. So we've got a shadow going on there. Now, as you can see here, naturally there will be a shadow where these overlap right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shield, I'm going to cover up my first cylinder in the middle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over quite a few times right in the corner here. Now I'm not going to smudge this out because this here would be quite a harsh shadow. Then I've got a shadow for where my cylinder covers my back ones. I've got my shadows for my natural light. Now my third one is a wee bit more tricky. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work in sections. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this tiny little top bit up here. I'm going to put my shield on like that. And I'm just going to take my time this time. Go back and forth. Smudge it out. I've actually went a wee bit further than I wanted to go. So I'm going to rub that out a bit. Smudge that out. Darken it. But this time, the darkness, instead of going strips up and down, it will go more at a slant because of wherever cylinder overlaps it. So I'm just going to shade, but I'm going to shade to the dot. Then I'm going to come back a wee bit more, back a wee bit more, and smudge it a little bit. What we want to do now is we want to get the shade that we put down here over here, except from this time it will blend because it's sort of meshing with the shade that we get from our natural light and the shade that we get because this cylinder's covering it. So I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to do more so this bottom corner, and I'm going to come up at a wee triangle, blend it, darken it, blend it. So we get a little something like that. I think that's much more realistic than what we started off with. Now what we want to do is we want to put the shadow on the ground that would happen when the sun's hitting it. So if you look at my hand here, there's a shadow on my bit of paper that happens because my hand is blocking the sunlight from reaching this bit of paper. We want to create that with our cylinders. So if we look here, you want to make sure that your shadow is going more southwest. So if we think about our compass, north, east, southwest. That's a name, not a W. And you want to think about it going in between south and west. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to lightly take our shadow, and this one doesn't have to be perfect, we're just sort of guessing. Same thing as what happened, it would be darker closer to the object, so I'm going to darken it in a wee bit up here on both of them and smudge it. And we get cylinders like that. That there is task 1. That there is your cylinders. Now, what I would like you to do is I would like 3 of these done. You can add colour, so you can add colour to all of these. I want 3 of this sketch done. If you're feeling pretty confident with it, you can go on and do extension tasks for that. But I definitely want 3 done. I think that there is all. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks in advance for doing the task. I'm really excited to see them all.